Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here to talk about, you've been waiting for it. So have I. Klaus Mäkelä's new recording of Mahler's Eighth Symphony. And I'm going to do it in a completely new and fascinating way because it has not been released as physical product yet. This is what, November 9th? It was released 2 days ago on November 7th. So I've spent a couple days letting it marinate as I listen to it. It was released as physical product, evidently, in like Korea and Japan or those places, because I don't know, they deserve physical product and we don't. So, it's just the way it goes, isn't it? So here it is on my iPhone. Ta-da! Mahler 8. There's the cover. You can see it. And it's got like all kinds of soloists. It doesn't tell you who sings what. So I'm going to have to take a guess about some of these things, and we will take it from there. Okay. It's got bunches of choirs. The Concertgebouw Orchestra, of course. The choir of the Orchestra de Paris, which is Mäkelä's other band. And, it's not bad. Not great, but it's not bad. It's certainly one of his better recordings to date, maybe because it's live, or because he didn't think too much about it. You see, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Mahler's Eighth. People think it must be difficult because it's huge. It's got zillions of screaming people. But it's actually the easiest of all the Mahler symphonies to conduct because there's so much going on in the first movement, particularly with so many people, that it doesn't require a conductor. It requires a traffic cop. You need someone to just give signals and directions. And Mäkelä is certainly qualified to be a school crossing guard. That's about the level on which you need to operate in the first movement. Of course, you can try to do things with it. It's possible. Bernstein, who was a genius, of course, had some ideas about how it could go. But most of the time, you just sort of give a downbeat, set the tempo, hope it's the right tempo, and off we go to the races. So let's take this one track at a time on the iPhone, because it has many tracks. I downloaded it, by the way, to my Presto Music app. So we begin with the first minute and 25 seconds, which is Veni Creator Spiritus. Well, we know that. It's nice to know that the Concertgebouw organ got cranked up and sounds quite decent. They were notoriously de-organish previously, in the Haitink recording particularly, and so that was really good. The organ sounds nice. The actual tempo, well, it could be a little perkier, or it could have a little more accent or oomph to it, but it's good. It's not too slow. It's not soggy. The choirs are great. Mäkelä gets no credit for that whatsoever. If your choirs are well-trained, and these choirs are well-trained, you're in really good shape. And the orchestra, of course, is the Concertgebouw. It sounds fabulous. They could play this in their sleep. So Mäkelä gets no credit for that. But he did set a good tempo getting started. It works. Then we slow down to the second subject of what is actually a sonata form movement. Imple superna, grazia, grazia. Okay, well, that is where the problems begin. It's not terrible, of course. First of all, the soloists are très, très médiocre. The best of them. We can get to this later. Well, we might as well do it now. Let's see. Haley Clark, soprano. Golda Schultz, soprano. Jennifer Johnston, alto. Oka von der Dommerau, alto. Giorgio Beruggi, tenor. Michael Nagy, baritone. And Tarek Nazmi, bass. Nazmi is the best thing in the bunch. He's a very good singer, and he's accurate, and he sings clearly, and he's got a bass without too much of a wobble. Haley Clark, I think it's Haley Clark. Oh, there's another one. There's Miriam Kutrovats, who sings Mater Gloriosa, I believe, in the second half. But Haley Clark is the soprano who sings Gretchen, in the second part. She's very good too. All the others are just average or kind of wobbly or irritating. And Giorgio Beruggi, oh my goodness, he's dying, absolutely dying and scooping and swooning. And his German pronunciation in the second half is so weird. Listen to him sing Bleak It Auf. Oh, yeah. So, so why did we get to the soloists? Because that's where we are in the first movement. Imple superna grazia. This is the time when Mahler channels his inner Beethoven to write some of the most difficult and ugly solo voice writing in the history of the universe. It needs to be very carefully balanced. And if Mäkelä should have done anything, he should have spent more time working with his soloists. You cannot just conduct the orchestra and let them stand out front and scream at us like a group of unruly carnival barkers, shrieking at us to come to their booth and win a stuffed animal. I mean, you can't. And I hear all kinds of issues. The tendency is for each one of them to try and sing louder than the previous one when they come in. And so there is, throughout this performance, a lack of true piano and balance in piano at that level. You have to control your team. And Mäkelä does not control these soloists. It's there's no question about that. So the solo episodes are kind of painful, I think. Then we've got the counter statement, which leads to Infirma Nostri Corporis. Now, as you know, that has an orchestral interlude surmounted by mighty strokes on the bell. Well, at least there's supposed to be a bell. There isn't one here because those fabulously awful Concertgebouw bell plates, which their percussion section was so proud of when they got them, show up again. And, they're just these big hunks of metal that you whack and like pizza trays or something. I mean, they're heavy, but they don't sound like anything. So you hear no bells. There are no bells in the first movement. I mean, at one point where you have that solo and the interlude, bong, bong, you hear enough to know that they exist and sound wrong and bad. So no, forget the bells. But that goes okay for Infirma Nostri Corporis, and then there's that interlude in the middle. And then it comes back and does Infirma Nostri Corporis again with the bass. Infirma Nostri Corporis. You know that part? So the interlude part, the orchestral interlude is well, it's all too loud again. I mean, he's punching out every single note. I mean, it's very emphatic and strange. I get it. Mahler writes for accents everywhere, but it's all got to be within a perspective. So he doesn't have any perspective, but he never did. Okay, so that's that part. Then we have, the big central double fugue. Accende lumen sensibus. That is one of the big traffic cop episodes, and it goes splendidly. Oh, they all make it into their school class through the crosswalk. Very, very well until we get to the moment of recapitulation, at which point, by the way, the children's choir also sings marvelously. And the choirs are all very well balanced with each other. And it's a live recording, and it's a very close-up recording. But it sounds pretty good. It really does. It's exciting. And the moment of recapitulation, thank God for the cymbal player, who really pegs it where he's supposed to. Well, cymbal players, because there's 3 sets of cymbals there that have to go like that. The problem there is that he actually sort of overruns it. It would have been nice if he had a little bit of a retard, a little more of a retard, let's put it that way. He does a little one, and gives everybody a chance to really come in on that downbeat, It would have been more satisfying, a real crunch. As it is, he almost loses it. It almost goes off the cliff, but it doesn't, so that's okay. Then you've got recapitulation stuff, which is more solo annoyances, and then, last but not least, Gloria, Gloria, Patri Domino. That stuff with the sopranos going, Gloria! And they sound like their internal organs are going to come flying out of their throats. It's well done. Again, it's more traffic direction, and they get to the end together, and excitingly. So that's the first movement. Now, the second movement. This is where problems usually start in performances of the Eighth, because this is where the conductor has to think. And that's always bad when conductors have to think. And Mäkelä shows that he is not a thinker. Or if he is a thinker, he's not a very good thinker. I mean, it has moments. So we begin with the big adagio, right? There's the big adagio. It's like 9 minutes of instrumental prelude. And that has the motive of Accende Lumen Sensibus on the bottom. Blump, 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 like that. As with the orchestral interlude, the first movement, it's all too loud and too strongly emphasized and accented. It should be accented, but it's not supposed to be a martellato, sort of hammer blow thing. A plonk, 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 plonk. It's too much. It's too much. There's no balance. This is supposed to be different music. And as so often is the case with Mäkelä, he doesn't really understand how to phrase. He doesn't point the music to the end of the sentence or paragraph. And so it sounds heavy. Along with the plonk plonks, it weighs everything down. And although the tempo isn't bad, it's absolutely not bad. The expression, the feeling of it is of just, it doesn't flow. It doesn't flow the way it's supposed to. So that happens. Then there's a little chorus, Waldung Sie Schwang Terran, that business, where the choruses are calling to each other, the acolytes, whatever they're called. And we get to Pater Ecstaticus. Is that the first one? Well, yeah, he's okay. He's not great. And we talked about him. Who was he? He was the baritone. This is the baritone guy. Yeah, Michael Nagy. He's all right. It's not terribly special. He really isn't. He's not like Fischer Dieskau for Schulte. Some of the really good ones. And then we have Pater Profundus. Oh yeah, Pater Profundus. That's tough. That stuff. He's really good. He does one of the best versions of that particular song or aria or bit that I've ever heard. It's 4 minutes of music. It's a serious chunk of music. And the orchestral accompaniment is all over the place in that. It's gnarly and it's hard to project against. And I was really proud of him. I thought he did a terrific job with it, especially since Mäkelä is not terribly interested in letting the orchestra allow him to be heard. So that went really well. And then we've got, let's see, what's next? Oh, then the girls, the ladies come in and the children, the kiddies with Gitarre, ist das edle Glied, Geistergeld vom Bösen. That's done nicely. It's lively, it's fresh. Jene Rosen aus den Händen. Very nicely done. Very, very pretty. Then we have the sort of recapitulation of the Infirma Nostri Corporis music. Und bleibt ein Erdenrest, which goes well. And then let's see. Okay. And here's where things start to go off the rails a little bit. It never goes entirely off the rails, but a little bit. This is patched together, by the way, from a couple of live performances, and I can sort of sometimes tell, I think, which ones are which. This is one of those moments. So, the choir comes back in with Ich spür so eben, da 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 da, I Meister Leben, that thing. That's okay. And then the tenor enters, and he's supposed to be covered by the boys' choir. He only pops out of it later. He emerges from it. You hear them sort of singing in the background. That works really well because this is a tenor whose voice sort of is meant to be heard in the background, I think, for the most part. Then he has his big number. Herrscht der Herrscher in der Welt. Oh boy, is he in trouble. It's like I said, his German is weird. His voice is way too small for this part. I mean, it's true almost of everybody these days. That's not Mäkelä's fault, certainly not. We're really lacking Helden tenors who can ram home Mahler's music because he obviously was out to get revenge on all the Helden tenors he'd ever had to work with in the opera house. And he wrote a murderous vocal line. He survives, but he's on life support by the time that's over. And then, of course, we have the moment when the Mater Gloriosa soars into view. And Mahler marks the violin line schwebend, floating, to be played with lots of vibrato, by the way, vibrando, all of these things, with the harmonium in the background. And you've got this da 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 ya da 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 da. It's another absolutely iconic moment where Mäkelä doesn't know how to phrase a melody. He's taken it one note at a time. It's too slow. It's too loud. It's tacky. It really is. It can be exquisitely beautiful, but it has to have delicacy. Delicacy. He's not. There's no delicacy there. None at all. Anyway. So he does that, and he does it badly. Also, by the way, if you're looking for like all of Mahler's cool special effects, like mandolins and things like that, you don't hear them in this performance at all. Just so you know. Let's see. We get that. So then the choir comes back in with and again, once the choirs are singing and things get going, we're in good business, in good shape for that little bit. Then we have the trio of the three incredibly irritating ladies. This is a tough passage. It really is. Mäkelä doesn't understand how to get through it, because that's what you have to do. You have to keep it moving. You just have to get through it. And you should not try and differentiate each of the ladies with their own tempo area or all that. And they're not great singers to begin with, for the most part, except for the one who's doing Gretchen. Neiga, to all der Kleiga, whatever she's singing, who knows. Anyway, that sounds rather nice. But there are lurching changes of tempo. And I think when the trio happens, when they do the canon, the round, dee do großen, dee do großen, dee do that thing, all of a sudden it speeds up. I think that was said the next day, frankly, because it sounds kind of out of place. But, it jolted me. It was actually a good jolt because I was bored out of my mind listening to this stuff before. But you can kind of tell. But that's just speculation on my part. So the three incredibly annoying ladies are incredibly annoying. And then we have Blick it auf, where, the tenor comes back and, I don't know what language. Well, it's German, obviously. It's not. He rolls his R's. His idea of German is rolling all your R's really hard, but the vowels are all messed up. Anyway, so he does that, and then you have the choir comes in, and they're all drifting around, and here, Mäkelä really lets the orchestra get too loud too soon, because you don't hear. The choirs they're somewhere in the back. They're all just sort of echoing reverberantly, but, all of a sudden, all that clarity for choral singing that we heard in the first movement, poof, out the window. And he overshoots the climax of that passage. Da, dum, ba, da. He really does. And I think one of the harps gets lost when it's going, those little arpeggio thingies. Something happens there that's a little bit weird. And finally, we come to the concluding chorus. Alles Vergängliche ist nur ein Gleichnis. All things transitory are but parable. Yes, that's what I say every morning when I wake up. So the closing chorus is big and loud, eventually. And the final bars of the entire symphony, that whole, orchestral postlude, very beautiful. Nicely done, well judged, big. He hits the big moment. So everyone's going to jump up and down and scream and applaud. Although, this being Holland, it takes them a minute to do it. The thing ends, and then there's this silence. And I wonder whether the silence is because they're saying, it's over, or is it because they really liked it? There was a lot to like here. There is. And like I said, Mäkelä is there. To the extent that he has ideas, they're not the best, but he also, gets out of the way where you need to get out of the way, which is a good thing. That's a good thing. So this is not as bad as his previous recordings. And like I said, I think the fact that it's a live event, I think he has the Concertgebouw, makes a huge difference. In fact, since most of his other recordings are with the Orchestra de Paris, they all suck. And all the Sibelius is Oslo, and that sucks. And that's all his fault, by the way, because that's a wonderful orchestra too. But having the Concertgebouw to make you look good is a big, big deal. And I reiterate the fact that the jury is totally out on whether this guy is any good or not, because being able to get through Mahler 8 is not a test. Especially when the moments where it becomes a test, he's really not that good. I mean, he really isn't. So if I had been there live, I would have enjoyed it. I'm sure. I have no doubt that it was a fun concert to see live. We always come to the question: does it deserve to be preserved for all time? Well, it's an academic question because it's going to be, and so for that reason, we are stuck with it. And it's not as good, for example, as the Vanska Eighth on Bis that came out recently. It's not as smartly conducted in the second half, for example. But it's not tragic. So there you go. Hopefully that will give you a sense of things that you can listen to and pick out yourself. And you can decide whether you think it's worthy or whether you think it's just another night out at the symphony. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.